Our dear guests, dear viewers, and fellow citizens, a good afternoon to you, and welcome back to your favorite series, the Inter-University Debate Show. My name is Sharon Mukisa, your host for this particular episode, and today's topic is going to center around the key events that shaped 2025, as we also discuss what expectations we have in 2026. With me, I have a panel of students, educators, advocates who are going to be sharing their opinion, and allow me to introduce them. Firstly, we have Ayo Patricia, who is from Luvaga Hospital Training School. We are very happy to have you. And we are looking forward to hearing your perspectives today. Okay, next we have Miracle Nasazi, who's from Makerere University. We are happy to host you today, Miracle.
Thank you for having me.
Next is Nkuruziza Precious, who's from Makerere University. We are happy to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure.
All right, so diving deep today into the discussion, we'll be looking at the key events. A lot happened in 2025, but we are going to be focusing on the SONA, the State of the Nation address. We are going to look at the national budget as well. We're going to look at the Kawempe North by-elections. We're also going to look at the whole electoral process, or the electoral period that we are in. However, keeping in mind, we're also going to discuss the saga of Anita Among versus Honorable Rebecca Kadaga as well, and many more to come. So first and foremost, we'd like to discuss the SONA. What was the SONA about, and how frequent should we expect the president to address the nation? So taking us through this is Miracle. Give us a background of what the SONA is and what it meant.
Okay, so the State of Nation Address is a mandate, first of all, from the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda in Article 101, subsection 1, that requires the President to give a brief overview of the economic outlook, the past events, the key areas of focus. And this happens every year. It's an annual thing. It happens every year, and it happens before the budget is given out, and it just really gives us an overview of how the nation is really working and what should we expect ahead of the entire year, and the challenges that the government has faced, and how they're really working on to making sure that they troubleshoot them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Precious, having given the background of the SONA, what it's about, and the fact that now we know it happens annually, I'd like you to outline what were the key economic priorities that were outlined in the State of the Nation address.
Thank you so much. A lovely afternoon to our viewers. Basically, we had them outline the mineral part, where they highlighted the minerals that we're having, and we also looked into the youth employment. It was also key in discussion because we've seen that most of the youth are actually, not employed, and we find we are doing most of the things. But like the main focal point in here was more about the minerals and the youth employment. We also had agriculture, where they gave us the state of the PDMs and the youth livelihood programs on how they are progressing. We had the tourism also being brought to the spotlight, because apparently tourism is also among the key things that contribute to the GDP of the country.
Okay, thank you very much. One of the concerns, one of the issues that is often highlighted is security. So there are always highlighting, in the SONA, they highlighted the fact that this is how much we spend, this is what we've achieved as security. So with Patricia, I'd like you to make us understand, what are the challenges that we are facing in terms of security entities in Uganda?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon once again. The security in Uganda, I could say, compared to the past years, has been progressing. The SONA this year addresses security with the lion's share, and I would say that security does its best, but also looking at the current status quo of Uganda today, we are heading towards politics. Security, I think, is failing to know boundaries between security and humiliating people, and that's where maybe there's a clash with humanity here.
Okay, thank you. Miracle, When it comes to, I would ask the same question, when it comes to security, there is a lot that goes on. There are so many challenges that we face. Do you think that those challenges were addressed in this State of Nation address?
I think most of the challenges the government has tried to address most of them. When you look at in the region, in the East African region, we've had the government of Uganda sending out troops in the neighboring countries. We've had Somalia, we've had DRC, and that is really part of making sure that we are really stable as a country, because at the end of the day, we have different markets, we have different outlets, we have people in there, and it's very important to have stability all around. So I think the government of Uganda has really done a lot in terms of security in Uganda, but also in the region, depending on the economics and how business moves around. So I think there is really progress, and I might say that we have really done some good work here.
Okay, just a follow-up question to that. Given the fact that they stated achievements in various fields, do you think that those achievements were the true depiction of what is actually on ground?
Okay. I think some of them might be a little exaggerated, especially when you look at poverty. When the government says that poverty has reduced to 16%, you know, figures, that's where the problem comes in with figures and reality. And at the end of the day, if UBOS is a government entity, will it really want to give out something that really puts the country at maybe speculation? So that is where we have difficulties, because when you say that poverty has reduced by 16%, is it really happening inside there? We have a lot of people in grip poverty, people who don't live, don't get a $1 per day. So I think there is really misconceptions and debates around that area. But also there are really some achievements, especially with the GDP. There's been some increment, but at the end of the day, GDP or output does not determine the well-being of people. Output might be increased, but are people well off? Are people being able to meet their basic needs? So I think that is where the disparities come in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Miracle. And coming to Precious, I'd like you to just state out what recommendations you think that would be best to address the various challenges that were cited in the SONA.
Thank you so much. I would actually also want to start with the poverty. Miracle delve deeper. And now when we want to reflect, actually, we now start to the person who is like down in the village, the common man. So first of all, we have to start with skilling, but then there's also where we have skilled youth, but we do not have the platforms where they can exercise. So now we also have to look at infrastructure development to make sure that that person down there who has the skills, they have somewhere they can exercise their skills and also earn a living. Then we can also look at concise follow-up of the government activities. Under the solutions that were put up for poverty, we have PDM, giving people money. After that, then you come through. We even actually always see that every time the president is giving his address. When I went to it, so I met the people, they told me how they're, benefiting from PDM, but you find those are a few, of which you cannot be sure that this is actually real, because it's easy to get someone to come and testify in favor of you. That's possible. So we just have to make sure that we do a follow-up on how the government institutions are being run, on how the money is given out, this money that is put up for the students, that is put up for the people who want to, come out of poverty as we try to eradicate poverty. Then when it comes to tourism, we also had the problem of limited publicity. Because tourism goes hand in hand with technology, because now we want to attract the people who are in the other countries. So we have to use social media. So eventually you find we have to make sure that people are well equipped with the knowledge, and we see a lot of things keep on emerging, but are people ready to cope up with them? So we have to invest more into research, we have to invest more into sensitization, as it is also key, it goes hand in hand with research. So those are some of the solutions that actually, recommendations that I would recommend. And just make sure that the people are actually informed. Because in most cases, you find the money came out maybe for the PDM money came out, but then you find people are not informed, but already the government has recorded that people received the money. So we have to make sure that people who are giving out the money, are they really accounting for it? And are the people really being informed that the money has come, you have to receive? Then the same goes for any event that is going to happen. Let's do publicity to make sure that the people are actually informed and come up and take up these opportunities. It can help us as a country as we try to transform economically.
Okay, thank you very much. Speaking of publicity, there is an event that happened in Uganda where a few people knew about the event happening and the rest of the people got to know when the event was actually happening. We are talking about the Chan Games 2024. We were very happy to host as a country, to host the games, but it came to very many as a shock that we got to know that these games were being hosted in the week they were hosted, on the day that they were hosted. There was not enough publicity. There were so many challenges surrounding the tournaments that happened early this year. So having that background in mind, Patricia, I would like you to help us understand what were the various challenges that people faced, especially the fans, and how did those challenges affect their experience? Were they able to cope up? Were they able to, did that affect the numbers of people that showed up at the stadium or that did not do anything for the spirit of the game?
The main challenges that we faced was mainly infrastructure. I think we were not set to host these games, and yet the Chan Games came with a lot of vibe, and our stadium was really not enough to host them. And then too, we had logistics problems, which was also a challenge. And you know, if you can't account for something, especially if you've been funded for it, definitely no one would want to invest more where they're not seeing the value or the outcome. And security-wise, there were a lot of insecurities around that same period, and so it affected the games. But regardless, the games went on well, and we were able to successfully manage.
Okay, thank you very much, Patricia. And coming to Miracle, having cited so many challenges that we had, transportation, ticketing, accommodation, now we know what it means to actually host such a big event. What do you think would be the steps forward for the sporting agencies, the sporting bodies to learn from the mistakes they've had? What do you think they should do better next time if they were to host such a big event?
Okay. I think first of all, we need to understand that these games are not just games. These refer to how Uganda looks outside there. This refers to how we relate with other countries. So it's very important. It shouldn't be taken as just a game. It is more than just a game. It's with diplomacy. It's with sports diplomacy. And it's very important to be key and rather intentional about how we approach these games. And first of all, I think it stands with the entities that organize these games. I believe in the previous games, money was disbursed, but well, I don't even know how it was spent. So I think it is more to how these people refer to these games. My point is all that it's not just a game. It's more than just a game. It's about our country. It's about our culture. It's about our our people, and it's very important that we approach it deliberately, beautifully, and intentionally. What image do we want to give out of Uganda? And I think that is what should be our point of focus. For example, we should be very intentional. We are in a global era, yeah? You should know how many people are coming in, how many do we expect in case this happens, how do we approach it? So at the end of the day, it's more to better preparation, but also being very intentional and taking this as a I don't even know how to say it, because at the end of the day, I think when the Speaker of Parliament was addressing the Parliament concerning the games, she highlighted that these games will determine whether we shall host the AFCON and how we shall host it. So at the end of the day, this is going to determine how many opportunities you're going to get as a country, how your teams are going to work, how you're going to get more funding. And these are these are things that really bring in money, the money that we so much need. So at the end of the day, it's more to people understanding what is the intention, what is the goal, how does it help us, and how best can we approach it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. You have brought in so many stakeholders to this industry, to the sports industry. So understanding that Objective 17 of the National Directive and State Policy encourages the state to come out and promote recreation and sport. So this question goes to you, Precious. How do you assess the government's commitment to encouraging sporting activities? How far has it done? Has it failed? Or is it just trying? Or is it just not interested enough?
Thank you so much. First of all, by the state that the country and the government, because when we talk about the country, we think of decision making, then the government comes in. The government's decision to accept to co-host these games, that's the first thing to show that they were committed. Yeah. However, commitment it comes in different forms. There is the passion and there is full. So the fact that Uganda has actually taken a step, basing on what Dr. Chris spoke about, he mentioned that the government is going to invest more into the technology field, because the biggest problem actually came through with the ticketing, where we had the ticketing system coming down because the server initially would not hand in the many requests that are coming through. So you find now if we have that problem, we cannot go on and actually now allow people to come and access the facility and watch the games. So the government's willingness to fund more into the technology, then also trying to improve the infrastructure. We've seen the Hoima Stadium. It has actually been making grounds on internet, and everyone is now seeing it as the pride of the country. So that itself is also visionary. Yeah, it gives us a vision that initially it's going to, Uganda itself is going to come up and invest more in infrastructure development to promote the recreation. Then we also see that the sports people are also nominated on government merit. So you see, because of that, it gives someone the energy and the zeal to continue engaging in sports. So literally, okay, in my own perspective, the government has actually done a lot to invest in the recreation.
Okay, thank you. This is just a follow-up question. What would you say to someone who has a notion that the government is not doing enough because sports is still under the Ministry of Education? So education is shielding or overshadowing sports, and sports is not getting enough attention, enough funding. It's not really out there in the limelight. Someone cannot take it on as a career.
That's a nice one, but I believe everything comes through dialogue. We cannot just come and all of a sudden feel like we want to separate, these two, because like I said, okay, sports itself goes hand in hand with every ministry. Because now if you talk about tourism, they come through and then they have to, tour around. Agriculture, people have to eat, stuff like that. But then now you find education holds a bigger sector, because education itself is going to sell out all other. So the government cannot just come all of a sudden and feel like they want to partition the sports from education. That's from my own perspective. However, I can also hold your own perspective. So the government is actually doing a lot through the ministry itself. The problem is most of us want to actually see things to react, not to understand. Like, why initially was it joined? Why did they join both the two ministries? Because we wanted to use education, not to use we. Initially, they wanted to use education to promote sports. So now that sports is actually coming up and it's leveraging with other ministries and other activities in the country, we feel the need that we are so very much entitled to the decisions that can be made now to separate those two ministries. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Precious, for that. Coming to Patricia, what would be your recommendations, or how best do you think that domestic football can be promoted? Because we often want to see talents up there representing Uganda internationally. There are so many talents that were spotted in the Chan Games. The likes of Alan Okello, there were so many people that were spotted. So what can Uganda do, or what can the sporting entities do to ensure that this domestic talent is promoted to international level?
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, I would love to recognize that most of the people who engage in sports are the young people, and the majority of them are school-going children. So just like the government has been doing previously, maybe they just have to add in more emphasis. And I would think education sector is the best to bring out the best of the sportsmen. If there's a way we could encourage competitions among students in institutions, schools, and then such students are appreciated, just like it has actually been happening. And then too, the country is already doing, because recently, lately we've been having interparliamentary games, and these are from within our own area MPs in parliament, going beyond East Africa, competing among themselves, and they're awarded medals. In such a way, Uganda actually, looking at the last parliamentary games, most of the games were won by Ugandan MPs. So that is already a way we are branding ourselves. And then maybe on the most of the times, the ladies maybe have feared to participate in the sports industry. So I think the best way to bring them out is to do sensitization. Let's encourage these young people, these young girls, to participate in sports, because really, if they sit back on their talents, no one will recognize what they can do. So definitely, even when someone has potential to represent us internationally, we'll not see that come out because they have not been encouraged to. Maybe through peer-to-peer influence and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you very much. So speaking about the Chan Games has really brought us to understand that sports falls under the Ministry of Education and Sports. Now we need to understand whether this same ministry, Education and Sports, has been allocated enough funding to ensure that education shines, to ensure that sports shine. So the next event we shall be talking about is the national budget that was read by the Minister of Finance. And it outlined various priorities, some of them being security, being various things that are not connected to education and health, which one would think would actually take priority of a nation. So we need to understand, this question goes to Miracle. Given the fact that the allocations of health and the health sector and the sports sector, or rather the education sector, were really low, were below budget, were below cut, would you say that the nation is prioritizing something else because they overfunded security? So what does that imply to us? What does that imply? Are they over prioritizing security over our education? And where does that leave the future of Uganda?
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful question. I think the allocation of education and health altogether is 11.4 trillion, human capital development, which is less higher, but that is two sectors combined. Then we have governance and security going in line with 0.86. But when we look at education and health, health has 5.84 trillion, which the ministry says is an increment, according to the previous financial year. But when you look at education, education was really underfunded. It was given 5.04. Yet in the previous year, it was given 5.85. So, I mean, if we are really prioritizing education, and we are talking about how many young people in UPE schools are really beneficiaries of this ministry and this funding, there are very many, around 1-point-something million. And USE is a little less, but at the end of the day, if the funding that was allocated for this year is less than the previous year, yet even the targets that we had aimed at for the previous year, we have not attained them. Where does that leave us as a country? At the end of the day, much of the money is given to expenditure, governance, and security. I mean, what are we really targeting? At the end of the day, we are not really investing in the young people. We are not investing in the future. We are really spending a lot. At the end of the day, my question comes to, is really security contributing to development, economic development? At the end of the day, yes, they do ensure stability, they do ensure a lot, but what are we really prioritizing? When you look at the Abuja Declaration, it says, it mandates, or it's a declaration that says that African countries should allocate 15% of their national budget to education, and Uganda has really fallen so short of that declaration. So at the end of the day, we are really not prioritizing education. We are talking about sports and development, and we are looking at the monies, and it is really underfunded. We want to host AFCON, but the ministry is underfunded. So it is a question to government, it's a question to priorities, it's a question to intention. We really don't know what the government is intending, because at the end of the day, human capital development is you cannot separate human capital development to productivity, to growth. So I think it's a problem. We are not really prioritizing, and we are not really intentional about our goals. I want to conclude with highlighting our goals. We want to grow by $500 by 2040. But at the end of the day, we are not prioritizing the things that will really lead us there, right? At the end of the day, we're not prioritizing to people who are going to push the economy. So I think it is really a problem. It is really a communication to us that there is a misconception about priorities. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Precious, why do you think that leaves the education sector in Uganda?
Thank you so much. Of course, the education sector is going to crumble because initially we've seen that the last term for the primary schools, the teachers were on strike. And of course, the president came up and said they can choose to go or they cannot. And it made rounds on the internet, and then we find that now when people start saying that, they say the education level is being under prioritized. So what is in for us, the young people who are actually trying to see that education is the key to success? Because initially that's something we've believed, and we find our parents want us to go to school, study, graduate, and get a job. But then initially our teachers are actually striking. So you find, of course, the administration is going to tell you haven't received the money, the government is quiet about it, but then every time we find they are different. Like you said, security is among the sectors that are being funded. Like they have a bigger allocation. So you find every time we are seeing the security officers being transported to other countries and they come back. So you find the other people, for them they are benefiting most, and then the education system is being crumbled over time, every time. So it leaves us in a poor state as a country. And the fact that we still consider that education is our key to success. We are still actually shattering our own success, ideally. Though when it comes to objectively, it does not seem the right way. But initially, that's it. You find we are shattering our own education system by prioritizing other sectors.
Over education.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, an interesting thing to note about the budget is that a lot of money was allocated, but then we actually, as a country, don't have that money. That money is yet to be borrowed. That money is yet to be acquired. So the budget was drawn on debt. And already Uganda publicly has a high debt rate. So this question coming to Patricia, can the government be able to meet its revenue targets through other means? Is there a possible way of meeting revenue to finance its budget without looking outside Uganda?
That is a very realistic question. Looking at our budget, Uganda can actually get that money, but now here comes a question. Are we ready to actually harness what we have? Because Uganda is a very rich country. We have so many minerals. We have so many sectors that can actually bring us money, the tourist sector. There's a lot. But the challenge you faced here as Ugandans is we have actually failed to harness our resources. We have failed to add value to our resources. We have actually allowed investors take up the lion's share of our resources. So literally, for me, in my own perspective, I would think if the government tries to channel some of the money that it already has into value addition, then definitely we shall get this budget catered by our own income from within the country. But if we continue taking out our things without any value addition, if we continue allowing foreigners come and invest in our own country, and then obviously they get the lion's share of the profits, we will not get that we really need. So personally, I would think that we need to do a double check on how we have been running our country. We need to draw better strategies on how better we can actually harness from our own resources. And we have gold in Karamoja, by the way, that's the honest truth. We have gold, but this gold is taken as raw gold. And then they bring to us the imported products at a very high price. How about if we build industries that can add value to this gold and then export the already finished products. So that is my perspective, and I think if given chance, it can yield more.
Okay, thank you very much. Uganda is one of the populations with a very high number of youth. So, and the thing is that we face unemployment in Uganda. The youths predominantly face unemployment. So having this budget out, how do you think that it has addressed unemployment? This question goes to you, Miracle.
Okay, how the budget has addressed employment.
Yeah.
I think it is not key or specific to how it has addressed employment, though there is money being disbursed through the PDM, through different programs, youth livelihood, and skilling of the very many young people in this nation, which is really, they're good strategies, I must say. But I think a problem comes with implementation. We've had much of the money being dispersed over the 3 years PDM has been in existence, but if we calculate if its effect, how it has been effective, I'm not so sure if we've really attained the goal that we had intended. So at the end of the day, it is implementation. How is government ensuring that this money, that even as little as it may be, because our budget is really small, it may not be big, but even the little that we have, how is it really being productive? We need the figures. And in the State of Nation address, the president said that they are prioritizing digital transformation to curb corruption. I do not know how that is working in the PDM. I do not know how that is working in these different programs, because at the end of the day, the young people are not receiving the money. The people who are receiving the money are not those ones that are really intended to receive the money. So I think we have good ideas, we have good policies, we have good interventions, but the problem lies with implementation. Yes, the numbers are many, but even the money that can reach to those few numbers, is it actually reaching? That is a problem that we really need to address, and that we have really tried to echo over and over time. And yeah, I think that is what I can say in that aspect.
Okay, thank you. And Precious, when it comes to the budget, it also talks about poverty elevation. It talks about taking away poverty from people in rural areas specifically. So what do you think are some of the measures that generally the nation or the country ought to take into consideration to ensure that at least we're somewhere above the poverty line?
Okay, thank you so much. Before I come to the question that was asked, I would want to actually differ from what my fellow panelists had spoken about,
yes.
Patricia. The whole idea of Uganda trying to channel, other measures to pay off the debt. I feel like Uganda, its nature, first of all, being a landlocked country. It is our biggest limitation. And then you find we also have the biggest vice, which is corruption. Uganda is always ranked among other top corrupt countries. And every time we've done nothing about it. So you find even the gold that you spoke about, even if I am the one who has seen it, I'm going to actually use the government, but then you find I'm taking the lion's share. So initially, we can first work on that thing of corruption. Then we also have to accept that Uganda's economy and our income is very, very small. So we ought to get help from the other international countries. That's based on the report that was released by the IMF. So you find Uganda, even if it's going to actually get money from, if we had maybe the East African core integration, that perhaps would have come in handy, but you find East African countries themselves are also facing their own problems. And you find you don't have that solidarity because, one man for himself. The president is dealing with the country's problems, so they do not have that enough funding to come and invest in other countries. So literally, I don't think Uganda can get away of channeling. However, it's not impossible. But at the moment, being realistic, the way we are standing with our incomes.
So you are saying that Uganda cannot take internal measures to raise revenue?
They can put ideas on paper. Initially, we've seen that every time you find there are a lot of ideas, brilliant ideas that are coming up. But every time it comes to implementation, you see, when the harm construction thing, when it came up, the artistic impression, everyone was actually amazed, saying Uganda is going to do this. But when it came to actual doing, we saw what happened. Now, every time we see the people in the markets downtown Chikuba, they're always complaining because instead of helping them, it actually caused a lot of expenses on their side. So now coming to poverty eradication. Now that's where we also now try and draw the line with the biggest vice that we have, the biggest elephant that we have in our rooms. That's corruption. Because even if I was to get something for the youth, I'm going to first look for someone who is related to me. Because initially people think it starts with me and my circle. You find we are actually closing our eye to the other external forces. So even if I were to get something, I'm going to first make sure that people around me are benefiting. We've seen that even with like the youngest emerging politicians, straight out from the class monitor. If people are shouting, first take those are not your friends or someone who didn't send you a pencil. So that has been a vice. However, if we invest more into knowledge, because if someone is informed, you cannot be cheated. Now it takes us back to the budget, education, the allocation. So literally you find it's like a chain, a block of chain. So if we want to cut off the strings, they always say start from down, but with our country, when you're going to cut off the strings, you start from up. Because literally the problems do not start from down, they come from up as they spread, like ink. So if we want to eradicate poverty, you see the PDMs, the youth livelihood programs, women empowerment through skilling, different skilling programs, it actually has to start with the people, the mindset change of the people. They have to shift that paradigm that they have within them, that if I'm going to do any development or something, it has to start. You can get someone who has better skills than someone from within. You first develop them, then they come and help you from within your livelihood. So that is where I feel like we have to first change our mindsets as Ugandans if we want to actually eradicate poverty in someone who is down there in the village. Yeah, basically.
Okay, thank you very much. And so far that has been our very first half. We've talked about the State of the Nation address, we've talked about the Chan Games, and we have also talked about the budget allocation this year. And there is much more to come. In regards of the key events that happened in 2025. We are yet to talk about the Rebecca versus Anita Among battle. We are yet to talk about the Kawempe North by-elections and the general elections at large. So see you after the break.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back after the break, and we are continuing with our discussion, looking into the key events that shaped 2025. And we shall also be talking about our expectations of 2026. So right now, in this second segment, we are going to dig deep into the Kawempe North by-elections. Now, early this year, there was a vacant seat in Kawempe North. And so there was a by-election that was held in order to fill that spot. But that election was marked with electoral violence, with bribery, with so many allegations. And with that, we want to understand what is the role of the Electoral Commission in ensuring transparency, ensuring fairness in by-elections specifically. So this question goes to Patricia. How can the Electoral Commission ensure transparency and fairness in by-elections?
Thank you so much. Electoral Commission is actually should be a neutral body that governs or overlooks the electoral process. And to me, Electoral Commission has one of the key roles, which is overseeing all the electoral processes. Secondly, mitigate or bring out measures that mitigate violence incidences. Take, for example, the violence incidences that happened in Kawempe. For sure, Electoral Commission had to intervene, as it's key. That's one of its role, to make sure that all the candidates have their rallies without any interference and intimidation from securities and stuff like that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so did the Electoral Commission perform to its best in the by-election?
Somehow, Electoral Commission was compromised. Reasons that are not best, we don't know. But looking at the by-election, Electoral Commission did not execute its duties as it's supposed to, because we saw so many incidences where people were brutally beaten, so many incidences where some members were denied venues, and that was not really fair. And sure, if it was supposed to be a fair process, then the Electoral Commission should have actually done its mandate.
Okay, so moving forward, what would be your recommendations to the Electoral Commission?
First and foremost, I would think that Electoral Commission, being an independent body, should actually mark and know that it is supposed to overlook all the electoral processes, regardless of either this person is opposition or not. It should actually not be compromised by a certain bodies. Like, take for example, the challenge we have in Uganda today is most of the people who work in Electoral Commission are being compromised. Most of them are being appointed by the people who are working in the ruling government. So most of them fear to lose their jobs, because that's where they earn from. You need to actually obey your boss to keep that position that you have. So for me, I would think that first and foremost, the criteria they use to appoint these people who work at Electoral Commission is not fair. Because if it were to be fair, then it shouldn't have been someone in the ruling government to appoint. It should have been an independent body to appoint. Definitely, even if it is me, I have to preserve my bread. I have to make sure I secure my position. So I have to obey my boss. To me, I would think that the human rights has a key role to play, regardless, because it's not easy if Electoral Commission is left alone. I still believe that it will not execute its duties as it's supposed to be. But maybe with the interference or with the intervention of the human rights, they might execute to a certain percentage. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And moving on to Miracle, how possible is it to strike a balance between ensuring security vis-a-vis avoiding undue influence on voters?
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. How do we balance security and voter intimidation?
Yes.
First of all, we need to understand who is supposed to provide security to the people in the elections, who is mandated. I believe in Uganda we have a lot of interferences. The law is not respected. The law is not abided by. And that is a very big problem. If we have entities, or maybe the UPDF in particular, and it does not have a restriction on where it's supposed to end or on where it's supposed to execute its role vis-a-vis the police, then we are really going to lose it all in forthcoming years, in all the elections, because even in the campaigns we are seeing that. So I believe there should be some integrity and, first of all, abiding by the law. Who is supposed to do what, and when they don't do it, can the law really take it into action to make sure that they really abide? And at the end of the day, I think it is not entirely a fair process, because why are we being intimidated? Why are we saying, if we are really saying that it's a fair electoral process, why are we refraining the people from going to support whoever they want to support, going to, exercise their rights? At the end of the day, I think we are trying to conflict in our what we say and what we focus on. So I think what should be done is for the Electoral Commission to come up and tell us who is mandated to do what and why, who should we expect to do it? Because at the end of the day, if the police is mandated to, provide security in these electoral processes and we don't see it doing that, then why is the Electoral Commission being quiet about it? So at the end of the day, I think it's what she said. We need all actors to be in unison. We need the Electoral Commission to work upon its mandate. We need all the law to abide in the country. I think at the end of the day, all the partners are really not connecting. If these parties are coming in, if the law is not abiding, if the Electoral Commission is not abiding, at the end of the day, there is nothing we're really achieving. So I think it goes back to being intentional, exercising integrity over everything that we do. Because if all those bodies are not doing what they're supposed to do, there is definitely not going to be peace. There's definitely not going to be fairness. There's definitely not going to be peace in these electoral processes. And it's going to be the same cycle over and over again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And coming to Precious, how do the Kawempe North by-elections, how do they reflect what we expect in 2026 general elections?
Thank you so much. First of all, from what we saw, I would want us to reflect on the COSASE meeting that was held on the 13th of May, if memory serves me right, where through the explanation that was given by the acting General Secretary of the EC, he kept on proving to the committee and to the country at large that there is lack of transparency. Because what do you mean people just came through and they started beating the polling officers? This actually shows us that there is some intermediary communication that happens there within, because the officials are not just going to be there and be attacked. It means either way, the officials communicated to these police officers to come through, or the officials were informed prior before they came through. So you find, because you're finding it hard to explain what happened, we are seeing that there is lack of transparency. We've also seen that through the nomination. Today you appear on the list and all of a sudden you're swiped away without actually even notice. So I feel like it's just a feeling, intuition, where we are also going to face maybe that problem of lack of transparency between the EC and the electorate and also the candidates in question. Because if there is lack of transparency, it means we are not actually going to trust each other. And it gives me a benefit of doubt that even if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be content with what I've done. So this takes us to the other part of insecurities. Because we do not have mutual trust between us, I have to actually put up defense mechanism to secure and protect my vote. I am an electorate. It is my right to actually cast the vote for someone I want to. And I feel like the ideologies match what I would want to see in my country. So if we want to draw an image, a glimpse from what happened, we had a lot of incidences of insecurities where there was actually, excuse me, even a candidate who was arrested. Like, you are a candidate, you're being arrested. Like, if they can do that to a candidate, imagine what they're going to do to someone who is a common man. Like, no one knows you. At least a candidate is known by the voters or the EC itself. But like now the common person has just come to vote and leave. What are they going to do when they land on you? When you're actually doing something that does not align with what they would want to see. Because initially we want to do what is right, but it's not what is seen. We've seen people being brutalized. Not so long ago we saw some women, they were being stripped naked. Just because maybe, even if you're doing something wrong, but that's not the right way to, accord justice. So we intend to also give a blind eye to these small things that are done by our government itself. Because what do you mean the government is giving security a lot of funding compared to sensitization? Because if I am informed, it's going to be easy for me to come and protect my rights as a citizen. I am not informed. I don't know what's going on. They did not sensitize us in the villages on who is supposed to vote. What are we, like, why are we even voting? Because some people don't know the relevance. That's where we see these incidences of corruption. So we also expect to see corruption cases. You've already made up your mind, but because they've given you money, if they've given you like 2K, just change line, you just come from the other side, you go the other side. So now it draws back to the poverty state of our people deep down. Because people who are around, maybe those who can access the resources, are these people around the capital city or the developed cities, not these that are developing. So you find you're easily taken away. It's easy for you to be swayed away by the small petty things just because you're not informed, you do not know what's happening, you are not sensitized on what is your right, what you should actually consider, and you were actually also not heard on what you would expect to get from your leaders. So you find this one itself also gives us a draw to what happened in Kawempe, the by-election. We saw many people being, you know, they would just come and transform you overnight. Today you're supporting the other candidate and all of a sudden you're this side. So because people are seeing you betraying each other, you find we are having conflicts. So literally we are going to see a lot of corruption. We should expect insecurities because our mindsets are different and we have different ideologies. So the security personnel, you can also have impersonators who are going to come through under the name of security because apparently through the window people have been training on how to help in ensuring that there is security on the polling stations. So someone can come and impersonate through that. So,
okay, speaking of security, there was a lot of heavy security during the Kawempe North by-election. So this question goes to you, Patricia. How do you think the presence of that heavy security, how do you think it had an impact, or how did it impact the voters during the Kawempe North by-election?
Well, thank you so much. Security is good, but which kind of security are we deploying? The presence of security, more especially armed security, intimidates voters a lot. For me, I didn't witness the one for Kawempe. It was just on media. But I would talk about the one I witnessed live in Sorority City, where we had the Sorority East by-election. We actually had people being shot. I mean, people were hospitalized. Security chased so many people from polling stations. That is not right. And then too, even before midday, security surrounded most of the polling stations, and of course mothers were intimidated to go and vote. I mean, who would wish to go and lose a life because of casting a vote? So for me, I feel heavy deployment has a very negative influence towards voting. And if we are to witness, if we are to have a peaceful election, then I think the government should minimize on heavy deployment other than making people fear. Because some actually, I could actually bring also my own experience. I personally am a candidate in Sorority City as a female youth representative. But I want to assure you, before I got nominated, I was actually intimidated, and I wasn't even nominated on the first day of nomination. I had to come up to EC Kampala, and through a petition, that is how I was able to be nominated a month after my colleagues have been nominated. Those are already just signs of intimidation. So for me as an individual, I would think if there's a way they could cut off, EC should regulate on which kind of security should be put on polling stations so that everyone has the right to exercise their duties as a citizen of this country. Thank you.
Thank you. We are glad to know that now we have a candidate on the panel as well. Okay, so moving on to another significant event that happened this year. It was the battle of minds, the battle of political ideas, the battle of women, two powerful women, the battle of Honorable Kadaga versus Anita Among. This battle was one of the most closely watched battles of political ideas. So this question coming to Miracle, do you think that this competition hinders women emancipation in politics specifically, or is it rather just promoting and showing what women can do in politics?
I think thank you so much for the question. I think it's a conflict of two ideologies. It must be speaking to, yes, women empowerment. We are seeing very good, vibrant women chasing for this post. But at the end of the day, it speaks to why should two women maybe choose to grumble against one thing, yet they belong to the same entity. So I think it speaks to, yes, women emancipation, because you don't have every day two strong women competing for the same post. So it speaks something in that line. But also it speaks to, I mean, why would two women in the same party who have been friends, who have worked together, who have been sisters at some point, try to again devise and come against each other? So I think it's a two-way thing. But all in all, from what we witnessed, it's that there was complete division from the two parties. There was complete division. We've once known that these have been two great allies. These have been two great women working closely together. We've seen the Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga supporting the Right Honourable Among, at the same time Right Honourable Among supporting Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga. And yeah, like I said, it's a two-way thing. But I think what it speaks to, it's about internal discrepancies within maybe political institutions, political parties. How can political parties come together to make sure that there is no division, to make sure that each and every person is maybe okay, is maybe, at the end of the day, division is not really what should be the goal of the day. What we witnessed, what happened, we saw voters of different parties. People saying, me, I'm going with the Right Honourable Rebecca, I'm going with Right Honourable Among. So I think at the end of the day, we are seeing internal discrepancies that I believe could be harnessed in one way or the other. Because as women, we are, I could say, I don't want to say that we are fragile, but we cannot afford to sort of run against each other, or sort of, I don't know how to put it, but I think it should be that we should devise means of how we can work together. Because at the end of the day, these are very much very prominent women who are contributing a lot to this country. We have the Deputy Prime Minister, we have the Speaker of Parliament. So I think it does not necessarily speak to against women empowerment. It does not necessarily speak to that.
Okay, Miracle, this being a follow-up question, I'd like to understand, don't you think that politics should be a competitive arena?
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, it should be. It should be really a competitive arena, because at the end of the day, the people should decide who they believe in, who they want to front, who they, believe can push for their interests. And that's what it should be at the end of the day. But, I believe that some things can be harnessed. Some things can be because when you look at this position particularly, it's an internal position. It's not necessarily a national position. It is a SEC position for the NRM, right? So I think there was a different conclusion that should have happened at the end of the day, because yes, it speaks to some sort of division, yeah, at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to get your opinion on the notion or the idea that one candidate should have stepped down, then the other should have taken up the position. Because initially that was the suggested solution from a lot of people. Do you stand by that?
No, I don't stand by that. I don't believe that one person should step down and leave the position to the other. But I believe that two people can get together and discuss and see how both of them can push perhaps their interests, push perhaps for the interest of the greater good together. Both of you agreeing. It's not about, oh, we believe that you should step down, oh, we believe you shouldn't do this. No, it's about two people, two great women, two great friends. It's just like I could sit down with my sisters here and say, you know what, we are doing this, but perhaps if we take this direction, we could achieve A, B, C, and D. But maybe if we divide, we could achieve something less than that or something different. So I don't believe that someone should step down for the other. But I believe that perhaps where competition is called for, it should be. And where competition is destructive, then it should be there should be some other mechanisms, good mechanisms, that is dialogue, consideration, and two people coming together and agreeing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And coming to pressures, we'd like to highlight another key significant event that happened this year in regards to the presidential nominations. We saw very many people pick up phones claiming to be interested in running for president. We saw people that had just finished senior 6. We saw those that had just graduated from university. A lot of people picked phones. Over 100 people picked phones. But then at the end of the day, we have only 8 people nominated for this position. So the question to you, does this really reflect the openness and inclusivity that the Electoral Commission is trying to achieve?
No. It does not reflect inclusivity. Because now, initially, these are the people who had all the qualities, because the Constitution itself mandates anyone as long as you have attained the certificates of high school. So if I can actually match up to the standards that are required by the Constitution that governs all Ugandans, it means I can actually equally ably compete for any position. So the discriminatory of these...
A minute, Precious.
Yes,
do you think that is a reasonable requirement for...
No.
Because... Okay. Thank you.
No, it's not actually, because, I mean, we are going to do deliberations of different policies that can shape the country. So not to undermine the certificates, but it does not guarantee that you have that, you know, intellectualism to match other countries, because we are actually trying to compete with other countries to see how this time they can benefit from us, not the other way around. So it is not right to me. So now back to the question, like I had said, it does not reflect that there is transparency in the EC and the whole nomination process, as it was expressed by most of the candidates. I would want to quote the Gen Z, you know, presidents who had showed up, Honorable Magezi William. He expressed his disgruntlement towards this whole process, because quoting him, he had actually matched all the standards. He had all the signatures, he had paid, and like on the final day, they tell you, you know, you've come late, you cannot be nominated, stuff like that. So there is no transparency.
Okay, thank you very much. And having discussed the presidential nomination, that brings us to the general elections. And so far we are in the campaign season, the campaign period. And from Patricia, I'd like you to just highlight for us, what are the challenges that we are facing in the electoral campaign period?
Thank you so much. I would start with the most common. That is, some candidates are being nullified even after nomination. I don't know really what is happening, and according to the research I have done, most candidates go back and try to buy off supporters of the other opponents, and so leaving them going unopposed. That is a very serious problem, and if not addressed, definitely will not have so much effective representation. Obviously, such a person who goes unopposed will not have anyone to account them, like to hold them accountable. That is a big challenge. Secondly, the issues of insecurity. We've watched all over media how I'll spot out Honorable Chagulanyi and his team, how his people are brutalized always on rallies. People have died in these few days that we've had presidential convoys, and I think that is a very big problem, and Electoral Commission should mitigate such, because we still have a long way to go, and if such issues are not addressed, we are bound to having more cases of insecurity that we really don't want to have. Another problem that we've faced is opponents. Opponents. This one I'll give, I'm sure you people have heard on media. Me, I'm so much on ground in Sorority, where opponents actually see how to eliminate the other through poisoning and stuff. That still comes about insecurities. I mean, why not accept fair competitions? I think that is unfair. And if you're not that humane, then I mean, I don't know how to address that. It's actually not a government problem. This is now an internal problem, and it's now with someone's heart. It's now humanity. Those are the few challenges we are facing amidst many people are spreading propaganda. I mean, but those are expected results of politics, and surely as a candidate, you should be able to think how to combat and how to handle such processes. For me, that's what I can say.
Okay. Thank you very much. And hopefully we do have some recommendations, as earlier stated in the show. And we hope all the stakeholders responsible do take up these recommendations and see to it that we have a free, fair election come 2026. So our show today has been about highlighting the key events in 2025 that have shaped the year, and also what do we expect in 2026. I'll let our panelists give concluding remarks as we wind up our show. In less than, I don't know how many words, but in less than a sentence, your concluding remarks, Patricia.
Thank you so much. To me as a person, I would first and foremost encourage each and everyone out there, starting with the young people, since we are the majority, not to shy away from participating in these elections. Let's go cast our vote, because your vote is your voice. Secondly, I think since the nomination processes are done, we should identify camps that add value to us, camps that, I mean, listen to people's manifestos before you go and support them, because people have a tendency of being bought or bribed, and that is really not a good tendency. To the young people, I would request that they go and seek out for the best candidates of their choice, support them, and surely participate in full swing. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. And next, Miracle, your short concluding remarks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion. And my concluding remarks would be perhaps recommendations to the EC. If we could have maybe EC financing regulations. We've seen our young people competing for these spaces. We have an election for the National Youth Female Member of Parliament, and we are really requesting for a fair election, and that could come around with, if we have EC financing regulations, where we should not be seeing voter bribery, really. We should not be seeing money being, flying everywhere. Yet this money can be really invested somewhere else. I mean, at the end of the day, in this electoral season, we are going to see inflation here and there. Our money is really going to lose value, and that is not what we want. So we are really calling for some regulations around financing of politics, but also we are really requesting the young people to be secure, to be intentional, to be safe. At the end of the day, your life matters. We need you as a citizen to contribute a lot to development. So please be mindful of how you exercise your rights. Be peaceful. And at the end of the day, contribute to what you want to see for your country. And also, I want to encourage government to really focus more so on the private sector. Something we did not highlight is that the private sector has not been really funded as much, yet it contributes a lot to development. I really call upon Ministry of Finance and all entities to have intentional policies around private sector development, so that we can curb youth unemployment, we can curb poverty, we can curb a lot of underlying issues in our country. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Miracle. And lastly, Precious, in a sentence, your concluding remarks.
Okay, thank you so much. In conclusion, my recommendation to the government, first of all, is to also invest more in sensitization, voter sensitization, so that we can actually avoid these irregularities that happen on the voting day and on the polling station. Then to the candidates is to ensure that we have a healthy competition, because there is life beyond politics. Then to the voter, you yourself as a person, me myself as a person, is to refrain from bribery, and to also hold our leaders accountable, be intentional, and don't just be taken by the small things, because there is more that is always blindfolded by the small things that we take in. Be intentional and be safe. We need you in the country, and there is still more that we can accomplish. Life does not stop after the 2026 elections. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. That has been our show for today. today. Thank you for watching and happy holidays.